setting is idyllic. The tropical waters and beaches of the Seychelles make these islands one of the world's most desirable tourist destinations. Set in the middle of the Indian Ocean, thousands of miles from the nearest mainland in Africa or India, the island seemed to be everything a tropical paradise should be. Yet all is not as it seems. Etienne Quilindo has been diving for research for 5 years, and he's seen drastic changes beneath the surface. The granitic reefs that were once bursting with bright corals are now struggling to stay alive. In 1998, a 2-degree rise in sea temperatures caused severe coral bleaching and dieback. The El Niño phenomenon, which warms the Pacific Ocean westward from California, was to blame.
Before 1998, there were lots and lots of beautiful reefs around here. But after the bleaching events, almost all of them, especially those with branching corals at shallow depths, all the coral just bleached and died completely.
Warmer water causes the corals to expel from their tissues algae essential for their survival. This leaves them colourless and looking bleached. If the warm water period is brief, the coral colonies can recover, but if the exposure is lengthy or recurs, they die. 4 years on, some of the corals have started to recover, but another El Niño cycle has started, and there are fears that the already weakened reefs will now suffer catastrophic collapse.
It's very worrying because if you see recruitments coming in, it's very encouraging, and if El Niño coming back again, you will see all the bleached corals, and if it's happened every year or every 2 years, you'll end up having no corals.
At the Seychelles Ministry of the Environment, the health of the reefs was once taken for granted. They used to map diversity. Now they're watching them disappear. John Neville is the Ministry's Director of Conservation.
The water in the shelf of Seychelles heats up like water in a bowl. It was not moving. And this was continued, as I say, for about 4 months. And the bleaching, which corals can normally recover from in shorter periods of time, was so extensive that we had considerable coral death, 50% and more in certain reefs, 90% in other reefs. Some of the massive coral head species were several thousand years old. We could be possibly looking at thousands of years to regain that status again, and of course that's without human interference and exploitation and other El Niño events.
And it gets worse. Pierre Adam is a researcher working for the ministry. Along with other government researchers, he's helping assess the chances of the reef's recovery. This was once perfect coral reef. Now it's more like a desert. There's been another change here. Sea urchins now dominate the coral in a way they could not with a healthy reef. The fear is that as fast as young coral appear to re-establish themselves, the urchins eat them. The reefs here may have been so badly damaged that they can no longer hold their place in the ecosystem. They are losing their niche, and once again the water here is warming.
Right here on this side, we've been monitoring it for about a month and a half now, 5 to 6 weeks. Since the bleaching, we've seen bleaching here, and it's not very good. The state of the corals now, there's about 20% of mortality.
The consequences for the island's economy are far-reaching. Like many remote islands, this is the end of a long supply line. Goods and raw materials are mostly imported and mostly expensive. Fish are one of the few food items that are local, plentiful and cheap. The island's waters produce a good living for fishermen and market traders, as well as affordable food for the locals and exotic dishes for the tourists. Take away the reefs and a mainstay of the economy will collapse.
About 3 years ago we have about 100 boats, but today it's more than 300 boats fishing. Too many boats, yeah.
These fish and the reefs they live on have evolved over millions of years, including long periods when temperatures were much higher than they are today. They flourished then, but in today's warming they will die.
Clearly we know in geological past water temperatures were much higher than they were today and coral reefs were abundant, but it's the rate of change and whether there is that elasticity in the genetic makeup of the populations that we have now, whether they can adjust rapidly enough, particularly if we're getting recurrent and El Nino events closer and closer together.
In the meantime, the tourists are still enjoying the sunshine and seas of the Seychelles. But while they swim and laze in near perfect surroundings, below the surface the reefs are dying. And perhaps worst of all, El Nino and even warmer waters are on the way. The rate of destruction seems certain to accelerate.